When I think back over the past couple years, I really think the absolute best decision that I made, forget the stock market, was focusing on real estate. I've said this a couple of times in different videos. Nobody could have foreseen the COVID virus. But more than that, nobody could have even possibly foreseen the government's reaction to it, nor could they have foreseen the unforeseen consequences of it. This, some people call it the Great Reset and everything. And some people are talking about how it's the greatest wealth transfer ever and this, that, and other. That's what like Stephen Graham says in like every other video, like every 3 weeks. But the crazy thing about it is the more metrics that I look at, it's like the more pessimistic I become for the overall system because I really see that, things are just getting worse. They're not getting better. They're not getting better at all. I'm hoping that there's a clean sweep of these Democrats in November, and I hope that these Republicans put us on a different course. I hope because, first of all, these pathetic pieces of shit over at MSNBC and CNN and possibly even Fox, if you did get Republican leadership in there and they tried to do their best to cool down our involvement in the war over there in Europe between Ukraine and Russia in order to help to tap down these supply issues, gas prices, all these shortages. And imagine if you got people in there who actually tried to take a step back away from trying to start fucking World War III with China over fucking Taiwan. Most of the shortage and most of these negative issues that we're having, I don't know exactly if they are just being used as distractions from the Federal Reserve's hiking of interest rates and the cost of cheap money going up, the cost of credit going up. I don't know if these are just distractions or if these people are really stupid enough to continue doing things that are antagonistic to these nuclear armed countries in order to literally push us to the brink of fucking disaster. Like, I honestly, at this point, I just don't know anymore. Because I'd like to think that they're just distractions, but what they're playing games with very dangerous people. And it's just ridiculous at this point. But when you look on the macro level and you see how things are actually going out in the streets, I just saw two stories that are actually a little old. This one's August 11th, but the other one I saw was actually Bloomberg, and it was like today. New York City rents hit record highs amid nationwide housing price increases. Where would you pay over $4,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment in 20 of New York City's neighborhoods? So, as some people may know, New York City went through a period of gentrification. I would say that period of gentrification pretty much started somewhere around 2001. Now, when we had 2001, that was the 9/11 terrorist attack. With that 9/11 terrorist attack, there were already a couple of things happening. Crime was going down specifically because Bill Clinton had put forth a crime bill. Giuliani took that crime bill and the extra money. He put more cops on the street. He basically locked everybody up and threatened to lock up anybody who did anything at all. And then we started going to this period of gentrification, but specifically because of 9/11, the Federal Reserve, Alan Greenspan, lowered interest rates, and then you had Bush go out and say, yeah, y'all should make this the biggest Christmas ever. Yeah, go out and buy this, buy that. And the thing about it is since that time, we've driven up up to $30 trillion worth of debt since that time. So as you know, we had the 2008 financial crisis, which was based around mortgages being sold as mortgage-backed securities in order to sell them in tranches to investors. And then eventually all of that shit collapsed. And now they're trying to do it again, but they're trying to do it with student loans. Unfortunately, there's not as much profit in student loans. So therefore, a lot of these potential shady investors are kind of staying away from them. There was more money to be made by investing in mortgages than there is in student loans. And then you get into the whole situation where you have derivatives, which are the bets made on the bets. And you have a whole lot of people who are still gambling, who you thought they would have learned their lesson back when we had the housing crisis. These people are still gambling, only now they're gambling on student loans, and they're also gambling on buy now, pay later programs and credit card services. Things like Affirm, for example. So here's the thing. New York City rents hit an all-time high in June, reaching $3,500 a month as prices skyrocket from pandemic lows. Rents are up in many cities across the U.S., but New York City's recent rise is outpacing other major cities like Los Angeles and Chicago, forcing some tenants out of apartments that were cheaper at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. The median asking price, or the median asking rent in all boroughs, other than Staten Island, hit records in June, according to data from StreetEasy. Manhattan's rose to $4,100 per month. Manhattan and Brooklyn have seen the biggest jumps in rent. In Manhattan, the median asking rent in June was 39%, higher than 39%, my God, higher than a year earlier. Brooklyn's was 28% higher. Okay, let's see. New York, Manhattan, as you can see, they have charts here where they're showing the rent. Obviously, the market increase has been Manhattan and Brooklyn mostly. Queens, see, the thing about it is we have 5 boroughs in New York City. When people think New York City, they think specifically Manhattan. If they've never been here before, they specifically think Manhattan because that's where all the skyscrapers are. They think like the Empire State Building. They used to think the Twin Towers. Now they think that Freedom dildo thing that they built, since they should have built 2 of them. And they think, obviously, Wall Street, where I work, and they think, Midtown and Times Square, specifically because they watch New Year's Eve around the world when we have it in Times Square, right? But that doesn't tell the whole story. See, we have other parts of, New York. We have other boroughs. We have the Bronx, which is basically a hellhole. The Bronx, let me tell you something. The Bronx is so fucking terrible. I don't even like driving through there. It's like when you go over there, it's almost like you've driven into a nightmare. It's like everything's off. It's like the streets are a fucking mess. The place is crowded. There's a whole lot of people over there. Like you're talking about it's a nightmare. The crime is off the hook. When you see most of the crime happening, when you watch New York and you're talking about the violent crime happening, most of it is really happening in the Bronx. And the scary thing about the Bronx is that the people don't stay in the Bronx and just kill each other. What they do is they take the A train. The A train takes these people through Manhattan, and then it takes them towards what's called Far Rockaway, which is like the beach area of the edge of Long Island. So what ends up happening is you've got these people able to travel and bring their crime and violence down towards us hardworking folk who live in Queens and who live in Long Island. So it's really nice. First of all, I don't like driving through there. I don't want to park my car in the Bronx because they'd be stealing, especially when you have a Mopar. You never know, they might snatch your wheels. But then again, you've probably seen it on the news. Most of the crime and violence happens over there in the Bronx. I don't really expect Bronx rents to rise that high because even as you see, nobody wants to live there. There's parts of the Bronx that have been gentrified and they've gotten the poor people, they shipped them out of there. But the problem is a large percentage of the Bronx is not gentrified. That place is scary. That place is scary. You go into these apartments, they all smell like piss. The hallways are piss. The freaking elevators are piss. Let me tell you, I could go on and on and on about how bad the Bronx is, but I won't. So Queens is, I'll say, probably the most civilized part of New York City. Queens is the suburbs. If you come to Queens, you have single family homes just like mine. You have space. You know, you're not right on top of people. It's not about apartments. There are some apartment complexes in Queens, but there's not so many of them that Queens feels anything like the Bronx or Brooklyn or even Manhattan. It's nowhere near as congested. Queens, if you go into Queens, that's your last stop before you go out towards Long Island. And as you make your way to Long Island, everything just gets better and brighter. There's more parking spaces for your cars. There's more space between everything. There's more building space. Everything's spaced more. It's more flatlandish. You don't have these huge, gigantic skyscrapers and buildings. Everything is just it's just laid out more flat. I believe the proper term for it is called. There's the suburbs, yes, but then what the issue ultimately is what we have is called an urban sprawl. So you have the urban area inside New York City, but then because so many people want to live a nice, comfortable life, what they end up doing is they move right to the edge of the city, and that causes the city itself and the businesses to actually start to spread, and they call that like a urban sprawl. They spread towards the suburbs. The urban spreads toward the suburbs. So if you've never been here, I hope I explained just a little bit because, pictures speak 1,000 words, right? So it says, out of all the neighborhoods that StreetEasy collects rent data from, 20 had medium asking rents above $4,000 for one-bedroom apartments in 2022, up from 6 in 2021. It's been the same story the past several months, which is the demand greatly outweighing the support in New York. Executive Vice President of Residential Leasing at real estate company Douglas Elliman. In July, we saw our agents with new listings hitting the market. They would have an open house with 50 to 300 people showing up. So it's been extremely challenging and I think frustrating for the renter. Let's see. It says tenants priced out of their homes likely accounted for more than 1/3 of New York City rental inventory available in the second quarter as landlords looked to make up for the pandemic discounts they offered. StreetEasy said in a July report, landlords have been raising rents more aggressively on units they leased during the pandemic in an effort to recoup the earnings they lost. In 3 of New York City's boroughs, the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Manhattan, over 50% of the median household income would go towards rent. Using 2020 census income data and 2022 rent data from StreetEasy, this means a household making the median income and paying the median asking rent is severely cost burdened. Well, guess what? If you're paying $4,100 a month for a freaking apartment, not even a house, if you're paying $4,100 a month for a freaking apartment, I would say you're pretty severely cost burdened. So I can give you the link to this article because the reality is it's like most of you don't live in New York City, despite the fact that a lot of people are trying to come to New York City. Most of you can't afford to come here. Now, the only reason why I can afford it is because I got my property before COVID. So even when I first got into the property, my mortgage was a solid $2,000 a month. Solid. So and in fact, no, let me break that down. The mortgage itself was only $1,300. The taxes and insurance brought that cost up to $2,000 a month. Couldn't lose. And even at the time, I was like, wow, you know what? It is what it is. But the thing about it is when we hit COVID, that made me look at the situation entirely differently, because you got to remember, as I've said in my videos I've ranted about, I've got friends who are still living, they are 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. They're still living at home with their damn parents. And I think to myself, I'm like, as fucked up as things are and as bad as things get, at least I have a very high IQ and I'm able to think about things in ways where I'm always on the defensive. I never get to rest. I don't get to rest. In fact, I barely get any sleep. I sleep with like one eye open. This what is it? August. I've basically done damn near 50 fucking videos. So that means that I was making like an average of like 2 videos a day. But it's crazy because I'm looking at all this news, I'm looking at all these metrics of measuring how things are progressing. And it looks like things are basically just getting worse. Now, inside news, they're saying that the developers are no longer building single-family homes on average. What they're doing is they're building apartments. And when you really think about it, that makes a lot of sense. They're building apartments because they already realize that the future of these American people is mostly renters. These people have fucked up credit. That's why I've constantly made videos trying to explain to you how to build your credit. Most of those videos went completely ignored. Now, I know some of you do watch those videos that I make with financial solutions, but the reality is I've got videos where, I'm talking about fucking cars, and in my opinion, it's shit that doesn't matter. But when I'm making videos about mortgages and car loans and all this stuff, all of that stuff goes complete. Like, YouTube doesn't hype it. It gets mostly ignored. So the reality is, I was talking about credit for the longest. I've been talking about credit for years, talking about ways to build your credit. Now that people are... See, this is how I feel about this system. This system has gotten too comfortable with telling people yes. This system, the same system that gives awards to... When you have 2 teams play, they give awards to the winners and the losers. This system has gotten way too comfortable giving in. It's gotten way too comfortable acquiescing to people. I mean, think about it. I can't even look further than Biden and his student loan forgiveness nonsense. And it's nonsense because it's absolute nonsense. The average borrower owes more than $40,000, but you're forgiving $10,000. And it's so sad because it's so obvious that this is something to get the Democrats' votes in November. My question is, why didn't you do this a year ago? Why didn't you do this 2 years ago? Of course it's obvious. We'll wait until November, or as close as we can get to November. We'll do it then because then it'll be fresh in people's minds. Let me tell you something. That is not good leadership at all. It's gotten so bad that I'm starting to think I would have rather Kanye West be president. That's how bad I feel. I think if Kanye West was president, I think that there's no way he could have fucked things up this badly. First of all, that was never going to happen. It was a meme presidency. It's a joke. But the reality is, all Kanye West really did was just make a fool of himself. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? He really couldn't have fucked things up any worse than they are right now. I don't think Kanye West, as long as he didn't pick any of these fucking neocon scum to be in office to help him, I really don't think Kanye West would have tried to start a war with fucking Russia. I really don't think Kanye West would have tried to start a war with China. I really don't think that Kanye West would have allowed his Secretary of State to fly back and forth to freaking Taiwan while insider trading in our faces. I really don't think he would have done any of that. So, I mean, yeah, it sounds ridiculous. Yes, it does. But now I'm starting to wonder, maybe that was a better choice. That's how fucked up things are. Because the thing about it is, these Democrat liberal cheaters were determined not to let Trump back into office. And when I saw that, I already knew. I was like, yeah, Trump's done. Because these people were not, they were never going to stop. They were never going to stop until you see what they're doing now. I mean, they're breaking into his house trying to steal documents and shit that he didn't even steal. I mean, it's amazing that it's amazing that this country's gotten to this point. But, you're supposed to, as an American citizen, you're supposed to have faith in the court systems. I'll tell you right now, I have no faith in the criminal justice system at all. None. I have no faith in the courts at all. I have no faith in the criminal justice system at all. It took this long for the Supreme Court to tell New York that half of the laws that they've already passed were unconstitutional. This is bullshit. It's absolutely bullshit. And then you think about Brittany Griner's over there in Russian prison right now for fucking like a couple of drops of hashish oil. And then you think about Americans. Think about how many Americans are still locked up for marijuana. Still locked up for it. Yet, marijuana supposedly in most places has been made legal. I have no faith in this fucking country. I swear to God, I don't. I really don't. I have no faith in these leaders. I have no faith in this country at all. I have no faith. And the sad thing is, they fucked up so many other countries until you really can't even say, I'm going to pick up my shit and leave. Because if you go somewhere else and you're not rich, you can't live comfortably because most of these other countries are dealing with fighting America's sanctions, or they're fighting another country that America has sanctions on. So it's just incredible. I have no faith at all. No faith at all. I wake up every morning hoping that this is the day that the welfare state collapses. I wake up every day hoping, you know what? Hopefully things just go terribly wrong and everything tears itself down. Because, it's like making a clay pot. In order to make a clay pot, you can't just shape a clay pot. You have to keep on breaking it down and remolding it. It's like playing with Play-Doh. If you try to build something like right out of the pot, like you take the Play-Doh, it's not going to be able to stand because the atoms that make it up are not strong enough yet. You have to keep on breaking it down, remolding it, remolding it. So it's like I keep that's why I hope the Democrats get destroyed in fucking November. At this point, I have no faith in their leadership at all. I think most other people would agree with me. It sounds pessimistic, but I think you agree with me, and I'm counting on you to vote. I have no faith in these people at all. I have no faith in the New York state government because, again, when you're looking at rents, when the rent is $4,100 a month, you have to ask yourself, well, how the fuck did we get there? How do I have a governor who plans to make it so that new buildings only have natural gas lines removed and they can only get their power through electricity? Like, did it ever occur to her that if something ever happened, like if there was a power outage or if there was like a nuclear attack or something, that these people in these buildings would literally freeze their ass off? And then I wondered to myself, is there somebody like me who sounds like me? Is there somebody like me who works as like either a lieutenant governor or somebody in the governor's office who, when she comes up with a stupid fucking idea, is that person raise their hand and say, yeah, that's a stupid fucking idea? Like, how could you have faith in a system where it's like there's no real check and balance anymore? It's like there used to be. There used to be. We used to hire people to positions because they were smart, not because they looked good on camera, not because they talked a good game with sound bites. We used to actually hire intelligent people who would go into government and say, you know what, based on the data and the stats, this is what I'm going to do. We wouldn't hire people who were fucking idiots who basically get into positions because somebody else got forced out. I'm sorry, I have no faith anymore. I just don't. I have no faith at all. I sometimes I hope that an asteroid will hit us, just like with the dinosaurs. Like, because if an asteroid hits, that'll just solve this right away. But these people, it's just absolutely incredible. Like, I can't, sometimes I have to wonder, it's like, how the fuck is this possible that these people are this stupid. You're about to watch Europe freeze its asses off because they decided that they were going to start a Cold War with Russia, and they had no backup for fuel and gas and oil supplies. That's going to blow back on us somehow. You don't know how yet, but it's going to. There's no way that Europe is going to survive this winter with what's going on right now. So you know what I predict, and chances are I'm probably right. What's going to end up happening is we're moving into winter now. Chances are America is going to end up start shipping more oil or gas or whatever it is to Europe. Now, they were getting a lot of their gas from a pipeline, the Nord Stream pipeline, this, that, and other. So we're going to have to give these people a lot of oil. And we're going to have to start somehow funneling energy supplies to these people. And guess something tells me that right after these November elections, all this bullshit that they did in order to artificially control oil, all that shit's going right back up. I took a photo today at a gas station where the highest gas price on that list was $6.28. And I think the mean gas price was still like damn near $5. And I'm like, they suspended the gas tax for New York State. I believe that was about 48 cents worth of savings. They already said that we're going to have a $600 million deficit by November. Once these November elections are over, mark my words, shit is going to hit the fan. Whether the Republicans knock these Democrats out of office or not, as soon as those elections are over in November, shit is going to hit the fucking fan. I feel it. I know it. I feel it. I see it. I know it. It's coming. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how bad it's going to look. But if we're in this shape right now in August, where rent across the board, like look at the rent. Look at the rent. The rent. Let me show you a different metric I was looking at. This was the story according to Bloomberg. Same story, same data, just done in a little bit different way. Now, they're saying Manhattan leads the boroughs with monthly rent climbing to $4,212. So they're up from $4,100. And this data was August 29th. So that's the reason why there's a difference. The other data came earlier on. So they're saying New York City, the average rent, one bedrooms as of August 2022, $3,930 for a fucking one bedroom apartment. And I'm pretty sure that one bedroom apartment is probably half the size of my first floor in my house. I'm fairly certain about it. California, $3,040. San Jose, $2,780. Then it goes down. Boston, Massachusetts, $2,730. And I think the lowest is Santa Ana, California, $2,160. That's crazy. The only cities showing a decline are Des Moines, Iowa, which is down 12% over last year, and Cleveland, Ohio. Well, as you know, nobody wants to live in Cleveland. You know, it's sad. I've never actually been to Cleveland, so I don't even know what's there, but I've always heard negative things about Cleveland, Ohio. Start going back to Howard the Duck, the movie. It's like, I've never been there, but I've always heard bad things about Cleveland. Some cities in the Sun Belt are showing signs of cooling off. Nashville and Memphis in Tennessee posted slight month-over-month losses, as did Fort Lauderdale and St. Petersburg in Florida, while rents in Miami continue to climb. See, Miami is a new place. Like, all of these influences and shit are trying to head to Miami, and they're causing the rent to skyrocket. All these influences on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, they're causing like rent there to skyrocket. And then you've got all of these people coming in from other countries going to Miami because they can't afford to be here. But there are 18 cities where average one-bedroom rents still come in under $100. $1,000, with Akron, Ohio topping the list. Obviously, these are places nobody wants to live. Akron, Ohio, Wichita, Kansas, 690, yeah. Lubbock, Texas, never heard of it. Shreveport, Louisiana, I've heard that place is fucked up and violent. Lexington, Kentucky, Oklahoma City, the same place we had the Oklahoma City bombing. Gee, I can't imagine why nobody would want to live there. Laredo, Texas, Des Moines, Iowa, Syracuse, New York, El Paso, Texas. So you're telling me that the only way that you can live under $1,000 for rent is basically to move to a red state out west. That's what it looks like to me, because all of these to me look like red states right here. The Democrats have been doing their best to fuck Texas up by importing Californians, but I think it'll be another 10 years before Texas is blue. I don't know. They might surprise me. It might be 4 or 5 years, but God knows. We've seen Zumper users sacrifice on space, location, amenities, and what is a Zumper? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Zumper Incorporated is the source. It says roommates for years. More recently, we've noticed some are getting creative as they search for an affordable home. Basically, listen, when you're dealing with a rent, like, because I live here, and if we're looking at these populous cities, the only way to realistically afford this is A, you're making $100,000 a year, or B, you have a roommate and you're both making over $60,000 between you. Other than that, this is crazy. Like, this is ridiculous. And the sad thing is, a lot of people think that there's going to be a housing crash. There's going to be a housing crisis. We're basically in it right now. But believe me, there's not going to be a housing crash. Anybody who got a home and they were able to get an interest rate lower than 3.1% or 3%, they ain't never selling that. Because I could tell you right now, the houses that I got, I ain't never selling them. I'll be dead. I ain't selling them. Because the thing about it is, this property, when I'm thinking about all my friends who are living with their fucking parents at 40 and 45 years old, when I'm thinking about them, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, how could you possibly be living in your basement, your parents' basement? Or how could you even be living in the house with your parents and you're over 40 years old? And I think back to those bald eagles and how the bald eagles have to force the eaglets out of the nest by refusing to feed them and, taking the soft stuff out of the nest. I'm like, it's crazy because you know how they say, oh yeah, no matter how bad things are, you're supposed to say, I'm thankful and I'm blessed. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, well, I'm thankful and I'm blessed, but I feel like it's an airplane and it's on fire and I'm about to crash and everybody's in the plane and the fucking plane's going down. So when they talk about Americans have like a very negative attitude and the presidency and the leadership and they have a very pessimistic attitude. Oh, I totally understand. I totally understand. You can't get anything you want. You go to the stores, they don't have anything you want, or if they do have what you want, it's overpriced. Can't easily buy a car. You damn sure can't easily buy a house. That's what the point of this story. And I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. But let me tell you something. And it was funny because I heard a lot of people, they were saying, oh yeah, well, when August 31st hits and those student loan payments start up again, that's when you're going to see a lot of people, a lot of these cars that were purchased, a lot of people are going to give these cars up. And you're going to see a lot of people selling stuff that they had because they don't have the money anymore to afford to keep paying for it. And then sure enough, as I expected, Biden administration extends the loan deadline through Election Day, obviously to the end of December, but basically it's through Election Day. Because see, I swear to God, once we get past the elections, shit's going to hit the fan. And it's obvious at this point. Because this is absolutely untenable what's going on right now. And it's obvious. It's obvious if you pay attention to what's going on. It's obvious that everything is being artificially suppressed. Gas prices, Biden was trying to say, yeah, gas prices went down. Gas prices are up $2 from where they were like a year ago. What are you talking about? Let me tell you something. Shit's about to hit the fan. A year ago would have been, what is this, the 29th of August? I want you to think about a year ago, we were in that COVID quarantine. Gas prices had not gone up yet. That was a year ago, it's 2021, and we were still basically, I mean, we were trying to get back to normal, but in fact, if you really think about it, a year ago, you had the schools were opening, students were getting ready to go back to school after they had spent an entire fucking year out of school and they were at home and everything. You had parents getting back ready to go back to the office, and all those quarantines had basically, they were trying to end them all. That was a year ago, and back, like, the fuel prices, all that stuff hadn't gone up. And then you also think, do you know how much happened within a year? Because if you remember, this whole Russia Ukraine thing, this started like right at the end of February. September, October, November. We did have a supply shortage crisis, or we had a supply issue come around November, like when Black Friday happened. And I remember that specifically because that couch that I showed you that we ordered, and my oven that I ordered, I didn't get my oven until March, and we didn't get the couch until freaking July. So the supply shortage was in effect, but it wasn't until you had the Russia versus Ukraine issue in, what was that? Basically in March, and it continued all the way till now. And let me tell you something. It's like nobody could even, like, it's like everything is like so unprecedented. It's like you can't even imagine how fucked up things were going to be like just 1 year later. It's just absolutely incredible. So basically, that's where we are. That is where you are. So, I hope y'all was smart enough to set your money aside so you can get yourself a house, because let me tell you something. If you haven't gotten a house at this point, I don't foresee housing prices going down for any reason at this point. It's only going to get worse because now you've got a lot of demand and you've got very little supply. And they have already said they're not focusing on building single-family houses. They're focusing on building apartment buildings. I'll be goddamned if I'll ever rent on U.S. soil. Fuck that. The closest I'd ever come to that is borrowing an Airbnb or something, like if I go to like Lake Tahoe or some shit. But no. If you're renting, it's an absolute waste of money. And the sad thing is, I hear these dudes on YouTube, these fake crypto gurus. I hear these fake gurus in general. I was just watching a video, and somebody was trying to explain how you can leverage debt in order to beat inflation and everything. And people make a lot of assumptions because they're up there. So, oh yeah, well, if you've got $100,000 in cash, it's like, listen, bro, what is it? Like less than 1% of these people got $100,000 in cash, bro. Oh, you could just buy a $500,000 house. Bro, where the fuck? Even here in New York, the average piece of shit costs, if it's move-in ready, the average piece of shit costs $600,000. Where are you buying a $500,000 house? Oh, yeah, well, because, it's assumed that real estate's going to go up in value. It's like, bro, that was the mistake they made in 2008. You're coming up with numbers. You think that things are going to appreciate. You're going to get $50,000 in equity. You're like, dude, it's like you can't guarantee that. We may be at the top of the market. Now, the only way I wouldn't believe we're at the top of the market is if, well, rent can go anywhere because, rent is its own beast around here. But I honestly think we're at the top of the housing market right now. Most people can't buy. Either they can't find what they want, they can't bid on what they want and actually get it, or their credit is fucked up and they can't even bother to bid because they're not going to be able to get the loan. So I'll tell you, things are looking bleak, guys. After these November elections, shit's going to hit the fan. I don't even know what it's going to look like, but shit is going to hit the fan. I hope that whoever the new leadership is, I hope that they're able to dial things back, because the one thing I figured out is the people that we got running this country right now don't know what the fuck they're doing. And that's obvious. So good luck, everybody. I hope you have a decent mortgage on a house, or I hope you have a decent house paid off, or I hope you have a decent place to live, because things are about to get real rough. Ever since I was watching those shows on HGTV where they show people selling off property in New York, I always wanted to make my own show where I show you property in New York and how people actually live inside the city who are selling these houses and how much you pay to get virtually nothing. Here we have one more example. In the last video I made like this, I did an example of one house, and it was such a lovely house, right? Here's one more example. This one's $335,000, right? So $335,000, you're looking at a mortgage of about $1,800 at least. But with the 5% interest rate, you're probably looking more at about $2,000 for a 30-year fixed. And that's before you factor in taxes and insurance. So let's see what you get. $335,000, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. Well, let's look at these photos one by one. There's 10 photos here. So this is New York. This is what that much money buys you here. You see that? How about this lovely front yard? How about it? Looks lovely, doesn't it? Absolutely lovely. So we have a fence. It's a gated property. You've got a gate. It's an attached house on both sides. Now, some people might not want an attached house because they actually like being able to walk around their property. However, some people love attached houses because this way they're right on top of their neighbor. Now, how about this? Wait, what is this? This is a unfinished basement. Now, when you're looking at it, you might see rubble, but what I see is potential. Plenty of potential for a man cave, a game room, or anything else, any other project that you could think of. What about this? Well, the basement may be unfinished, but it does have a partially finished bathroom. Partially finished. So right now, there is a brand new toilet that requires just a little bit of love and care. And then here you have one of the rooms in this lovely home. And, as you can see, it all has all original paint and all original work, all original mold and fungi that, some people don't like mold and fungus. However, it adds character to the home. Okay, and then this is another photo of the unfinished basement. And as you can see, you have plenty of space to build your man cave. You can set up a game room, a home theater, anything that your mind can come up with. And then right here, we have a staircase to the unfinished basement. This is this. I can see nothing but potential here. And then right here, you have a lovely kitchen with just a little bit of black mold. Not too much to put you into cardiac arrest, but just enough to give the home a fresh sense of taste and character. And then right here, you have a perfect space for your laundry machines, your washing machine, your dryer. It's already ready for you to just move your units in. And all you got to do is just have Sears deliver them. And next thing you know, you could damn near plug them in yourself. And then right here, you have another picture of the unfinished basement. And right here, you have yet another picture of the unfinished basement. So basically, I hope you're ready to sign on the dotted line because, as you can see, the estimated payment is $1,900. You're getting 2,640 square feet, and pre-qualifications are extremely easy. So this lovely gem is listed by the Solway Corp. 646-443-6607 is our number, and we are currently only entertaining offers on our properties as we are inundated with interested parties. Please do submit offers in writing via email. Please be sure to have the address and offer amount on the email offers. We are reviewing by the selling party of the property and not the bank. This is not a RIO. Note, we are contracted by the seller and do not advise regarding offers. So as you can see, this property has been 187 days on Zillow, 5,361 views, 60 saves. So act now because this lovely, beautiful property is priced to sell.